Hey, welcome back to another video. So, been pretty busy. Been pretty busy lately. I have been working on the newer versions of the Super Nintendo all-in-one de-jitter mod. That's a new version. Probably do a video on that later. But today, and what I've been doing for the past few days, is working on GC video related stuff. I've been meaning to do a video on installing the GC Dual into a GameCube, but the stars have not aligned properly for that just yet, so that's not happening just yet, but eventually I will. So I've decided to jump way ahead of myself and install a GC video device on a Wii. And you may have seen the Wii Dual out there, which is a pretty styling way to do a Wii GC video mod. It's very nice. It's very expensive. I believe the Wii Dual kit runs like $130, then you got to get it installed as well. And it's not a trivial installation, although this won't be either. This is, it's pretty hardcore, no matter what you're doing for the Wii, because the Wii is just, it's just hardcore like that. There's no easy way to install it because there's no digital port on the Wii like the GameCube. The GameCube's easy. GC Duals, GCHDMIs, really easy mods to do. So, I've already got the Wii motherboard out, and that's because this is going to be a time-consuming soldering task here. We have got to solder 16 wires to this. Well, actually, it's 13 wires. We got to solder 13 wires to the legs of this chip. It's pretty tiny. So, basically, that's what we're looking at. We got to solder 13 wires to that, which is going to be a challenge. And then we got to get them over to this board here. This is a GCHDMI. It's meant to be installed in a GameCube, and it's not really meant to be installed in a Wii. But the GCHDMI is based on the GameCube Shuriken V3 hardware design, which means it can have just the standard Shuriken firmware installed on it. And there just so happens to be a Wii variant of the Shuriken firmware, which means that this board can be adapted to work on the Wii. But there's no pinout for this custom arrangement of pads here that go with the quick solder board. This right here, that's meant to go on a GameCube. Well, this isn't. This is a GC Dual quick solder board, but similar. Point is, this is meant to go on a GameCube, and so it doesn't follow any kind of pinout that's logical for the Wii. So you got to kind of manually figure this out. I actually probed this out with a multimeter and figured out what goes where, and I have made up my own little pinout for it, which I'll put a link for the pinout in the description or something of this once the stream is over and everything's good. So basically, we're just going to be wiring up the board here to the the AVE RLV chip there, and it's going to be mostly just some soldering. I probably won't even talk much. I will note this does work. This is definitely a working thing. I've tested it. Actually managed to get it installed on another Wii, which I just pulled the whole thing off of. This was installed successfully on this Wii here, which is my original Wii from years and years and years ago. This is a version 1, like launch model Wii. Unfortunately, I found out after this being in storage for years and me not really taking much scrutiny before installing the mod into it, I found out that this has a dying GPU. So it's got graphical artifacts caused by the slowly dying GPU inside of it. So that's why we're doing this one, because this is a newly acquired Wii. This is a later generation. This is a CPU 40, RLV CPU 40 model, which is a later die shrunk revision, which my understanding is they're more reliable. Incidentally, this is also the one that's compatible with the with the Wii Dual, if I ever decided to go that way. So anyway, that's enough talking. We're gonna switch over. Unfortunately, this is too precise. The soldering here is going to be too precise to do regular camera. I've got to look through the microscope while I'm doing this. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to switch to Potato Vision, my little microscope camera, which is like the shittiest of all time. I'm sorry, but I really can't do anything better at this point because of because of how fine the soldering is here. So we're gonna switch over to Potato Vision, and I'm sorry that this has to be this way. Okay, now if you can stand to watch this, I invite you to continue watching with me, but if not, I understand. So we got some pins to solder, and one of the main things you want to do is when you're doing super fine soldering like this is you want to use a lot of flux the whole area up really well. And before you do any actual like soldering of wires, you want to make sure that you get this lead-free solder out of here. Got to get that lead-free solder out of here, because that stuff is useless. So we're going to go ahead and kind of re-tin each of these pads. We're just going to drag solder. And then up here we only need, let's see here, we need, you reference my, man, that looks bad. Sorry about that. Okay, so we need this pin here. This pin here, and this pin here. Okay. So this wire I'm using is PVC jacketed wire, which makes it very well, it's not very thermally resistant, which means you don't really have to strip it. You can pretty much just heat it up and it will shrink back a little bit. So that's what we're going to be doing. And then we're just going to get it in position. Get a good bond. Okay. So the pin that I just soldered is D0. And D0 needs to go over here to this pin right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of loosely estimate how much wire we need. We're going to go ahead and snip it off, and then we're going to pull it back and just leave it loose. We're going to actually do all of the final wiring all at once. But for now, we'll just focus on getting all the wires affixed firmly. Okay. 1 down, 12 to go. Okay. That one goes over here as well. Let's see. Oh. Not getting a good connection here. Okay, that should be good. That should be good. Okay. Yeah, that seems real sturdy. Okay. It's gonna go right there, so we'll just snip that one. Get it out of the way. And you can't see this because it's off camera, but what I'm doing is I'm pre-tinning the wire. I think that was the issue with the last one. I was hoping the flux would be enough. The flux that's on the board would be enough, but apparently the wire really wants a little extra. Okay. I know this is, the order is totally off from the Wii, the pin order. This was not at all designed for, this board was not at all designed for the Wii. But that's fine. It's not really a big deal. Oh goodness, you gotta make sure that your soldering tip is clean. If you get excess solder, that's gonna end up being a problem with this fine of a pitch. Try to get this one out of the way as much as possible. This is going to be a tight squeeze here in a second. Ooh, today I am wearing a brand new Thermaltronics bent conical tip, which is quite nice, to replace my old Metcal bent conical tip, which I finally completely destroyed because I mistreated. Mostly I think it's just the aggressive cleaning that I do of it, which oftentimes involves slamming it down into the into my copper wool cleaner, and I smack that really fine tip on the end of in the back end of the cleaner, and it has slowly bent it out of shape until it finally broke off. So yeah, my bad. It's entirely my fault that it's broken now, but you know, got a replacement for it. and it's performing nicely. I don't really have any complaints at this point. It's good to know. This is the second Thermaltronics tip I've owned, and I gotta say, performance is really good. I don't really want for a Metcal tip, and you save like 10 bucks per tip by going with Thermaltronics instead of Metcal. So I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. You're just saving money, really. You're not really losing anything for quality. Ugh, this board is really gross. I had it installed in a GameCube, and I pulled it from that, installed it in one of my Wiis, found out that Wii was bad, and now here it is going into the second Wii. So this board has been through a little bit of turmoil in its life. And the sad part is it's not going to stay in this Wii because I've actually designed a more appropriate to form board for the Wii. So this is probably going to end up in a... this is probably ultimately going to end up in a GameCube again, if I'm being honest. Likely will not get to stay in this Wii. But I need it in this Wii right now because I need to be able to capture some HDMI from a Wii over the coming next couple of weeks, and I will not have my redesigned board in time. But when I get it, I will definitely make a video about it. My redesigned board is actually meant to fit into the Wii. Kind of like the GC Dual, or kind of like the Wii Dual board fits in the Wii. It really is fitted to kind of actually go down into one of the component-free areas down here in the board. So it'll be much nicer, much easier to install in this one. Although you will still have to do all the manual wiring. Although I believe you can use those vias over there. I just haven't... well, I know you can use those vias over there. I tried to solder to the vias in the first Wii that I installed this into, and did not have any luck. And it's because the vias are so small that my 30 gauge wire does not pass into the via, so they're kind of like pads, and they're very small pads, so I didn't really feel like that was going to be a good plan. So I kind of abandoned it. Okay. That's all the video and stuff. All that's left now is the audio wires. And then to actually hook everything up to the mod. Okay, last one. Well, last really precise wire. Well, I can't seem to get it quite right. Let's see here. Come on. Don't be difficult for the very last wire. Oh, God. There we go. That should be a good firm connection. Oh yeah. Alright. That's B clock. So that's pin number number 2 over here. Well, number 3, because ground is in there. Okay, so I think my strategy is going to be, for wiring this, is going to be to run the digital video lines first, across to where they need to go. And then follow that up with the audio lines after. So we can actually switch out of potato vision for this part and into real camera. Because this does not require the extreme precision that that does. Okay. Now we just gotta wire everything where it goes. So, first of all, I'm gonna go through here and pull everything to its appropriate location. So, this right here is D7, and D7 goes, flatten it out to the board. Okay, let's look at the pin out. D7 goes all the way to the end here. So, find another set of tweezers. I'm going to be double tweezering it as I sort out what goes where. So D7 goes all the way to here. Right here. That's D7, so we're going to go ahead and clip that shorter. I'm sorry. Can't really see that very well. Let's see. That should be pretty good. Okay. Okay. All right, so D6 goes, weirdly enough, not right next to D7. Because, as I said, this board was not actually meant for this particular installation. So D6 goes right here. And it's already the perfect length. Which means I cut it close, which is not really what I was planning on doing. Whoops. a little fresh solder to the pad as well. All right. Next one is chip select, which I totally wired that wrong, but that's okay. I made that way too long. Weird. I don't know what I was thinking. But it's right here is where chip select goes to. All right. Next one is M, and M is actually the first pad. The very first pad. All right, next is D5, and D5 is going all the way to the end. All the way to the end. D4 goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This right here is the exact reason that I really like these bent conical tips that Metcal offers, and well, I guess Thermaltronics technically this time. It's you can really get them into tight spaces, you know. So if you're doing lots of wires right next to each other, you have a lot of freedom. Really just work it however you need to. It's nice. Okay. D3 is going right here. D2 goes way past, all the way next to D4. Yeah, unfortunately this layout really does not match the Wii at all, which is exactly why I have redesigned it. And in the future, we'll be able to conveniently install my board into Wii's. Unlike what we're doing now. Honestly, it's not too bad. It's just, you gotta get a pinout worked out, and it can't be organized very well because of the limitations of the pinout not really matching the design. But I mean, if you don't have access to a Wii specific mod, this is not bad. And it's very doable. You know, I mean, you just need I mean, if you're decent with a soldering iron and you can do this fine stuff here, then you'll have a good time. Whoops, I fucked that up. Hold on. Went to the wrong pad. That little wire was hiding so well. I didn't even realize it. I was totally on the wrong pad. Always double, triple, quadruple check yourself while you're working. Sanity checks are how you keep yourself from screwing up big time. Uh-oh. Oh no. D0 was overstressed to the point that it finally broke off. I guess that was the one that got moved around the most. Let's see here. Take a peek under the microscope and see what happens. Huh. All that happened is the solder joint failed. You know, that was the first one I soldered on this board, and I didn't pre-tin it before soldering it. So that would explain why that one did fail. But it's fixed now. It's not going anywhere. Okay. So all the video lines are soldered. All we got left is some audio lines. And those all come right here to these three pads right here. Oh, and we got to get power and ground and stuff as well. Okay. This top wire here is B clock, which we'll bring around like this. So this wire is B clock, which goes right here to this pad. Okay. A data goes right here. And last but not least, LR, whatever it's called, LR clock or something like that. Alright, so all that's wired. Let's run a pad wire. Pad wire goes to TP27, and that's how we'll be able to control the mod from a GameCube controller. Make sure it clears all the mounting holes. And the pad wire is just going to go right here to this pad. The pad labeled pad. It's kind of funny. Of course, it's a control pad in this instance. The GCHDMI board does not have the infrared option that some GC video boards have. So you have to use a GameCube controller for it, at least in this form of the board. But you could probably implement infrared to a revision of this board, because it's based on the Shuriken board, which does have infrared support. It's just been removed from this design because it wasn't necessary in its original format inside of a GameCube, because of course you were going to have a GameCube controller connected. It's a GameCube. But in this implementation, you don't necessarily have a GameCube controller connected because it's a Wii, and not all Wiis even have GameCube controller ports, so It's possible. You could have one that doesn't even have a GameCube controller port. Okay, now we gotta wire power. So there's ground over here. This is the ground pad for the entire mod. And we're just gonna run it over to, there's a ground test point right here that we'll run it to. Okay, that's ground. We need 3 volts, which we can get 3.3 volts from right here. So that's gonna, we'll connect it up to the board first. So 3.3 volts is this pad right here. Okay. Pull this down here. Okay, ground 3.3 volt. Last thing is 12 volt, which we're just going to get from VN right up here. That is not a good connection. That 3.3 volt connection is not very good either. Oh man. These pads have just been soldered to too many times. They're gunked up with old gross solder. Okay, 12 volts. And you know, the 12 volt line in this board is kind of silly. The only thing it does is drive a set of resistors that go to the HDMI port that act as like an HDMI enable signal. It's kind of silly. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. Make this look a little bit nicer. Well, there you go. That's what it looks like. I'm going to double check it under the microscope one more time. Make sure everything checks out, and then we'll fire it up. Yep, it all looks good. Alright, so in order to power it up, we need the Wi-Fi module. I believe that's the Wi-Fi module. And we'll slap a heat sink on it. And then need to put in the HDMI wire. This is the one used on the previous mod. I'm gonna have to refold it into a new direction to make it fit properly on this one, but I'll figure that out later. Alright. Now I just need to this bit of shielding here was where the HDMI port was mounted on the old mod, and I think that's going to stay the same for this one. So you just get it plugged in somehow here. Okay, an important test that needs to be done. Which I can't do because my battery's dead. Hooray. I was gonna say an important test that needs to be done is to check continuity and make sure nothing's shorted out, but that would be the case. But the battery in my multimeter's dead. Give me just a second. Let me see here. Good thing I had an extra 9-volt around. I've always wondered why, like, multimeters and stuff use 9-volt batteries. Because 9-volt batteries are, like, really specifically... I mean, I'm trying to understand what the reason would be that 9-volt would be used instead of, like, a couple double A's or something. Like, I rarely have 9 volts around. This is an exceptional circumstance that I even have them. But you know, whatever. Okay, gotta check the resistance. That seems kind of low. Usually expect in the 400s. Sometimes I think these flex cables don't seat all the way in or something. I don't know what the deal is, but I get varying resistance on these GCHDMI mods, and I can't really pin down what the reason is. See, now I'm getting what I would expect. 524. That's more in the neighborhood that I was looking for. Whatever. It's not shorted. Sometimes these get shorted out, and you know, if the cable's installed backwards or something weird like that. So you always want to check for that sort of stuff before you fire it up, because it's possible to short the 3.3 volt rail. And honestly, if you do that, I haven't ever actually seen any severe long-term effects of doing that, because I've done it on GameCubes and Wii's. And the effect really just seems to be that it doesn't work, which is not the end of the world. It doesn't seem to break anything. That's my point. It doesn't seem to permanently break anything. You just remove the short and it works fine again. Okay. Game controller. All right. Let's see what we get. Hey, look at that. Wii Video DVI 2.4C. Let's see, picture settings. Enhanced DVI mode is on. 16:9 is on. Okay, looks good. If I had a Wii remote in here, I would actually get past this warning menu and show you what it looks like. But I don't have one in here. So, whoops. Sorry about that. Well, anyway, that is a success, though. You know what? Hold on a second. Let me go grab a Wii remote. Oh, you're in. Never mind. So, well, there you go. You see, it is working. Very nice. Oh, I grabbed the wrong Wii remote. Well, I don't have a sensor bar set up anyway, so I can't really show you anything else. But there you go, the Wii menu. It's all here. Everything's good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Man, it's amazing how little heat consoles of this generation produced. I mean, the PS2, the Wii, I mean, they got fans. The GameCube, they've got fans, but they don't really need them. Well, okay. That's about it. I'm going to reassemble this off camera. But hope you enjoyed this experience, learned something maybe. That the fact that the Wii can be installed, just GameCube based GC video boards can be installed in the Wii, although this is a Wii specific firmware. But you can install any of the Shuriken based Wii GameCube GC video boards into a Wii and install the Wii Shuriken firmware. And like I said, I've got my own design that I should have ready here soon. In fact, I'll show you a picture of this. I'm gonna unplug this since it doesn't have any cooling. Let's see. Let me pull up a picture of this for you. See if I can show off a bit. Hey. So that's it right there. And it's meant to fit in these later model 4-layer Wii boards. You can put it in another one of the older model Wii boards, but it won't sit nice and flush like it's meant to in the 4-layer Wii boards. But the pinout is actually correct. It follows the AVE RLV chip perfectly, so you can just wire it straight up. There's no shenanigans with pinouts and stuff like that. Sorry about that. There's no like pinout shenanigans or anything like that, so it's a very simple system to use. But anyway, that's all I got for you today. I'll probably have another video about this whenever I receive my new Wii boards. And then I'll show the installation of that. It's going to be pretty similar to this. It's just something that's more specifically fitted. Oh, I've got a different HDMI QSB as well than this one here, which is really actually just a GC video, like a GC dual QSB. And it doesn't really fit very well in the Wii. But I've got one that's configured the same way as the Wii Dual one, where it actually is attached to the USB port on this end of the board, and it's a much cleaner installation, so I'm pretty excited about that too. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. I don't know, maybe you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you'll join me next time. Thanks for watching.